The Truth Girls. The Truth Girls.
Hi everyone. As I said to you last time, I'm gonna have a hard time vlogging because my son is here. But I've been reading a lot about the shooting that happened at the Batman premiere in Denver last Friday, where James Holmes killed 12 people and injured 58 others. So I'm just gonna share with you all the stuff that I've been looking at and then let you know what I make of it. Well, first of all, there's Alex Jones's take on it, and I couldn't help noticing that actually he got a lot of dislikes on this video, and that people are saying, oh yeah, sure, fear mongering, making money off scaring people. However, there really is such a thing as Manchurian Candidate, and actually everything that he says is very possible. There is mind control. I've actually met several people who were in mind control programs of different kinds. And then, of course, there's mind control drugs. He mentioned scopolamine. Personally, I don't think it's a good candidate because scopolamine makes you very suggestible. It's routinely used by criminals in places like Colombia. But you see, you could tell the person, hold this gun and go shoot someone, but then as soon as somebody else says stop shooting, they would also stop shooting because they'll just do whatever anybody tells them to do. But they could have drugged him. That's one possibility. Okay, here's another video that I found that I thought was very informative by Mary Greeley. So as she points out in here, there's evidence from several witnesses that somebody, probably the shooter, received a cell phone call and then went to the exit, came back dressed like he was. Obviously it was the shooter, so if he got a cell phone call, that would be a mind control trigger. And if you don't believe that this can happen, you got to see Darren Brown's The Assassin, which is here on YouTube, how you can hypnotize somebody and turn them into a mind control slave. There's a good post here on Above Top Secret about exit doors at movie theaters. As a Denver, Aurora resident, I have a lot to say about the shooting. One thing he has to say about the shooting is that movie theater doors are usually rigged with alarms. Seems to make sense to me. I think probably most of them are. So why didn't the alarm go off? And he also points out that Denver is kind of really a police state and that you can't go anywhere without there being tons of security and cameras and all this kind of stuff, cops. So, you can't pick your nose in public. So how is it possible that a guy could pull something like this off? Also, here's something very strange pointed out by Mike Adams on Natural News. Question: how does an unemployed medical student afford $20,000 in weapons gear? Because James Holmes was a PhD student who had a master's in neuroscience, and his apartment was booby-trapped and rigged.
It's so cold in here.
Cold? Are you kidding me? It's like 30 degrees. So he's this unemployed student, and his apartment is rigged, booby-trapped, and when they get in there, there's all kinds of really strange exotic gear, SWAT uniforms, various kinds of explosives, all kinds of expensive guns, and well, here on Natural News they calculate it to amount to something like $20,000 worth of gear. So it looks like he must have had some source of funding and probably some kind of help getting this gear. I find that's very strange. Oh, and back to the movie theater. Getting the cell phone call and going to answer the door, going out the exit door and coming back in. And then finally James Holmes makes his first court appearance, and here's an article about it. He basically looks like this, and you can see that whole video here on CNN. He looks totally crazy or dazed or drugged up. I mean, he looks like he's tripping on acid. And this seems to be a recurring theme. I remember the Unabomber, Abdul Muttalib, they also said that he looked like he was in a trance. Like, these people are not in a normal state of mind. And another thing that reminded me of previous likely false flags was that people said, oh, he was a shy person. We would have never expected this. Like the Columbia Tech shooter and so many others, including the guy who sawed off someone's head, or cut off someone's head with, I think, a machete on a bus in Canada a few years ago. It's always the shy, quiet ones, except for Jared Loughner. Everybody knew he was a freak. And so Alex Jones was saying that there's this treaty that the UN wants to, sign that has to do with gun registration and gun control. I don't know if this false flag, which I think it was or likely was done specifically for that, or maybe it was just another one of their occult rituals that they do these days in public all over the place, which, by the way, they're also going to do at the Olympics. Although personally I don't think anybody's going to die, but it's definitely going to be an occult ritual. So I don't know if it's because of this UN treaty, but definitely gun control is on the table and has been for a long time. And also, this TSA style searches at public events, sports events, movie theaters, the mall, you name it. This has been in the news many times that they are saying this is what we want to do. I remember random bag searches in Times Square. So this agenda's been on the table for a long time. And in this article here, they have a little graph here that shows gun ownership, and at the top is the US. This is like really cheap propaganda. I mean, like it's just an insult to people's intelligence. Well, it must be the gun ownership then. I'd like to point out though that Norway is actually really quite low on the list in terms of gun ownership, and they had a major mass killing just not long ago where something like 80 people were killed. So how do you explain that? And Canada, which is sort of somewhere in the middle, I mean, compared to Tunisia, but we're known to be polite Canadians, right? We don't have problems with that. Actually, we already have a gun registry, and we've had quite a few people go postal up here. I mean, we had Marc Lépine back in the 80s, who killed 14 women at the École Polytechnique. And we had the Dawson shooter just a few years ago, whose gun was registered. And just recently, we had the Eaton Centre shooting in Toronto, which, by the way, weird thing, one girl, what was her name? Jessica, victim of Colorado theater shooting, was also at Eaton Centre shooting. Strange, she escaped death at the Eaton Centre, but then she died in a similar circumstance in Denver. Personally, I really think this time that's a coincidence. This thing couldn't have been staged to kill Jessica Gowie. I mean, that's kind of going too far. But we had that, and just last week we had somebody go postal in Scarborough, Ontario at a barbecue, like a neighborhood party, and shoot. He shot a lot of people. I can't remember if it was 12 or it was 22, but he killed 2 and shot a whole bunch of people. So explain me that, because we got a lot less guns than you do in the States, according to this graph. And by the way, Switzerland they have a lot of guns there, and they have very low crime. So explain me that again. Okay, but here's something really, really strange. And I don't want this to be a conspiracy. And it seems also like after the fact people go over the literature and comic books and movies and all these things, and they see things that could be construed as predictive programming, which does exist, but sometimes I think people look back and go, hey, this looks a lot like such and such. Maybe it was predictive programming. But in this case, this is really weird. This is from the Intel Hub. They posted an article about this cartoon about a Batman where there's a shooting in a movie theater, and look at the guy who does the shooting. I find that he looks a lot like this guy. Especially the crazy eyes, although you can't see that so well in this picture here. But he did have this kind of googly-eyed look to him in court. So I can't say, was this a false flag, but it certainly has all the earmarks of it, and whether it was done for purposes of gun control or it was just a mega ritual or an occult ritual, it'll serve the purpose of those who want to get rid of guns. But I don't think that that's going to solve the problem, because you know what, in the end, people who want to do stuff like this, criminals and crazy people, if they want to kill people, they'll find the means to do it. They'll get the guns or they'll get the explosives, especially if they have connections with the military who supply them with all this gear. You can't stop it. And especially if it's the government setting them up. And speaking of those statistics where they show all those, that Americans own so many guns, every time there's a crime like this, they're like, yeah, it's because you own so many guns. But Americans also consume 80% of the world's pharmaceuticals, and they only have 5% of the world's population. So maybe you should blame the drugs or blame something else. They also have like the highest per capita rate of incarcerated prisoners. So maybe it's because they put too many people in jail. But, you know, correlation does not equal causation, right? So just because they have a lot of guns, as I said, the guy killed more people in Norway, so, you know. Anyhow, that's my take on it. And let me know what you think. And thanks for listening to me. I'll see you next time.